Anken Ma'at, Anken Ma'at. I must apologize for being a little late. I needed to catch up with a shrine member and talk a little bit. Someone who is going through it right now, but on the other side, doing so extremely well. Anken Ma'at to all of you. Please come on in. Please come on in. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Some of you have probably been waiting since 12 o'clock. We're about a half hour into our time. I must apologize for taking so long, but I am so honored that you are here. You know that when we start Kemetic, and by the way, you probably are looking around and saying, where is the Hemnetter and Tefi? I'm actually in my childhood home. This is where my mother is, and I've been trying to spend a little bit more time with her as she's going to hear me say this and say, what? Gets up there in age a bit as she is approaching 83. It's good to spend time with my mother, particularly since my father made his transition. You may remember, I guess that is going to be 5 years this May. And so it's good to be here. And I'm coming to you with Kemetic Ascension in an unusual place, but definitely I thought it was important for me to still come before you so that the community can spend time together. I see our dear Vanetta Sutton saying she's just waking up, shaking. You know why you're just waking up? Because we lost an hour. So everyone's going to be a little bit out of sorts. It's a good thing that they do that on Saturday so that you're not struggling to make yourself feel normal on Monday when so many go back to work. So I really do understand. Oh, no. Your mother is coming to stay with you for 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, Sanette Bonetta, I'm reading that your mother is going through intense chemo. I just need to say that we are asking for divine Seneb or health to visit her. We are asking that the ancestors give her an existence that is free from pain. We are asking the Neteru to come into your home, to give you strength, to give you the ability to give your mother the sort of love and the sort of myrrh, the sort of care that she gave to you. There is a portion of one of our greatest texts that says, double the food that your mother gave you. She cared for you when you were filled with excrement and crying. Do ma'at for your mother. And I think it reminds us that with all of the things that we have received from our parents, there comes a time that we need to make sure that they are having a pain-free, wonderful, blessed existence as well. And so I want to say dua, thank you to you, our dear sister Bonetta, for doing that for your mom, as we all need to do for our mothers. And let me say that I can really get that you need to get as much rest as you can, because you're going to need to have the energy to assist her. So go back to sleep after Kemetic Ascension. I feel better. And we're sending you myrrh all the way out to Winston-Salem. Anken Ma'at to Rashad Muhammad, who's coming to us from Santa Ana, California. Anken Ma'at to Sen Jason Holmes, coming to us from Lincoln, Nebraska, one of our full members and active members. Anken Ma'at to you. Anken Ma'at to Ta Seti, who's coming to us from Denver, Colorado, and had been with us for more than 3 years. Anken Ma'at to Heru Asar Ankh Amun Ra, who's coming to us from Dallas, Texas, one of our full members. Anken Ma'at to Naima Ra. Anken Ma'at, Anken Ma'at, Anken Ma'at. Naima Ra, are you the Naima? I'm wondering if I know you. Are you a relative of our shrine elder? I'm wondering if you are that Naima. I've seen you before, but I never thought to ask if that's who you were. Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at to Kamisha. You know that is Sen Gavin, one of our full members, one of our active members coming to us from the DMV area. Please give lots of myrrh to your family, to your queen. Ankin Ma'at to you. It's good to know that you're here. Ankin Ma'at to Sen Atan, who you know is an active member coming to us from the windy city of Chicago. Much myrrh to you and your little ones and your queen. Hopefully I'll be back in Chicago soon. I'm going to be hopefully doing some things, but as I'm thinking of them, as soon as they become a bit firmer, you know I'm going to be chatting with Senatan. And so hopefully I'll be there soon. Ankin Ma'at to CK Productions, who you might know as the Schaefer family, coming to us from Kemet. That is, the C is our Sen Charles, and the K is Senet Kenya. You know that they are amazing, amazing, amazing artists and producers, and they're coming to us. I believe you're still in Kemet, right? Please let us know that you're in Kemet. And Heru Asar Ankh Amin Ra, no, I hear you saying you're not a full member yet. I always confuse your name with the other Heru Asar Ankh. I think he has the first three names. So you say you yet. Hopefully we will be doing that soon. Ankin Ma'at to Monster Shannon. Ankin Ma'at to Kevin Simmons. And Dwa for being here. Ankin Ma'at to Adamium 720. Who I don't know if I'm saying that right. Adamium 720. Sen Curtis, who is one of our full members, an active member, coming to us from Painesville, Ohio. I believe that's where you are right now. You said you were driving when I spoke to you, so I'm not exactly sure. At least you were driving earlier, so I don't know if you are coming to us from there. I must say to you all, if you have not heard, that Sen Curtis's mother is now an ancestor. And I think it is so important for us to support each other when we may feel a moment of such profound loss. When we lose someone close to us, you may actually think that you are losing them. What you are losing is their physical form. And in my conversation with Sen Curtis this morning, he is really, really clear about what is happening. So I just want you to know that her services will be soon. And this is probably just a good time. Let's just go ahead. I'm going to put the and this is for several purposes, as you can imagine. I'm going to put the link to the StreamYard in the chat. Sen Curtis, if you'd like to come in, you can. Definitely for those of you who are preparing to do the opening of the way, you can come as well. An error occurred. Wait a moment, then try again. For those of you on Facebook, you may not actually. No, it seems like it's there. Can you all see the link? StreamYard is telling me that there may be an error that occurred. Are you able to see the link? Please let me know if you're able to see it. You should be able to. StreamYard is just telling me that something may have occurred. But I do want to say that we need to support our dear Sen, who, good, I'm glad, Dwa Benetta, for letting me know. I need to say that we need to support our dear Sen as we support all of the members of our family when they are going through challenging times. You may recognize that in the last few months, we have had quite a few members have their parents become ancestors. It seems that there's a larger number in this last year than there had been in the years before. So many of us are dealing with going through the rest of our sacred lives without the physical form of our parents, and that is challenging. I just want to say for all to hear, you must remember that death does not destroy us. The only thing that we must do as those who are in the tradition that first described the reality, the tangibility of resurrection, the tangibility of the ability of our eternal souls. We must recognize that it is important for us to let our family, our friends know that those people who have made their transition are still with us. Where else would they be? I continue to say that about my own father, who made his transition nearly 5 years ago. Sometimes when something happens and I feel that my father's energy, or he comes and he does something, I remind myself, where else would he be? My life was so important to him from my birth until his transition. Where else would he be? I just pray. I just ask the Neteru for the ability to have the faculties to receive his dialogue. And so we have spent so much time ensconced in flesh that we begin to believe that these senses that we have, our sight, our hearing, our smelling, our tasting, and our touching, we begin to believe that those 5 senses are the only way to perceive those things that are in the universe with us. They deceive us. They deceive us. And we must recognize from the earliest times, our ancestors describe the ability of those who make their transition to return to the land of the living, to be with us, and to go back into Taseket Ma'at. And so they are with us. And in my I see Sen Curtis is here now. I wanted to pray briefly as a community with him, and I wanted him to say a few words. We had a really profound conversation, and I want him to hear that. I wanted you to hear some of what he's feeling and thinking right now in this particular position. By the way, I also have to say that we are with you. Sen Michael is saying, Sen M is saying that his Basset, I believe his beloved, I believe that's your pet you're talking about, made their transition. We know that our pets are become parts of our family. I am sometimes embarrassed to tell you how hard I took the death of my beloved cat. It was not easy. It was not easy. I'm not comparing it to the death of my father, but certainly what I'm saying to you is that those entities, both human and non-human, that live in this realm with us, make a mark on us. And when we have loss, we can feel loss, and that's certainly true. So, Sen Curtis, first of all, can I say, Dwa, I am so pleased that you have joined us. I want to continue now in public to say that we are thinking about you. We know that you are very strong. He's extremely strong. You know that he's dealt with health challenges and other challenges during his time as a member of the shrine, but he is there looking strong, standing tall. No afro today. I'm telling you, sometimes when he has his afro going, he got an afro, right? But definitely we know that Sen Curtis is one of our strongest and most enjoyable members. And I must say that we are continuing to think about you as your mother is on her journey. His mother is Janice V. Irwin. Please, as you do your altar work today, as you do your altar work this week, as you speak to the ancestors, as you speak to the Neteru, please call her name. Because we must always remember that it is in these times that a spiritual institution, that a shrine shows its mettle. So support individuals who are in these kinds of challenges. And let me say to you, I've had a really interesting week. I'm going to just call it interesting. It was not an easy week. And I want to say dua to our Hemet Netter Sishat, who sent me a text letting me know that your mother made her transition. I had not heard of it. So I have to say dua to her for sending me a text to let me know. That's how I became aware of what happened. And so it is really important that we support each other. Did you want to say a few words before we pray, Sen Curtis?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you would like, and can you hear me well?
We can hear you clearly, yes. And the only reason why I'm saying if you want to say a few words is because I think that we spoke a bit earlier today, and I think that your perspective based on your work, on your practice, is helpful to hear for so many of us who in this particular period, have lost their parents and others that are close to them. So I thought we had a profound conversation. Did you want to just say a few words? I'm putting you on the spot, but I know I wouldn't put him on the spot if I didn't know he could rise to the occasion, right? So Sen Curtis, please.
Yeah, I will keep this simple in that amazingly, my own response to my mother's transition has been surprisingly a lot different than what even I envisioned before she transitioned. And the emotional composure that I've been able to display and model, I attribute to my Kemetic knowledge as a practitioner of our Kemetic spirituality and my teachings and learning through the shrine of Ma'at, that I was taught to see that my mother is not gone, that mother is just not here physically, that my mother is here spiritually with me, and that the importance of my altar work, the importance of my shadow work, the Kepler process, and meditation are heightened even more than ever, and my libation, because that enables me to have the higher consciousness to be able to receive her ancestral guidance. And I would have never had that ability to see and understand her rebirth and the ancestral plane if it wasn't for what I've been taught as a member of the Shrine of Ma'at in our college. So for that, I am grateful to Himnetter and Hemet Netter and all the members of the shrine and all of the Kemetic ascensions and the studies and things for giving me this perspective to prepare me to walk through this and be a powerful example, not just for our members, but for my family and friends and all those that have been there supporting me. So for that, I am grateful. My criticism for this is that I am more relieved than I am grieved. Mother really in the last week and a half did not have a quality of life that, well, there was no quality to it as well. So I know physically she's no longer suffering. It's spiritually she's thriving and vibing and still with me. So that is
Dua. That is profound. That is profound to share that. And I know I immediately think of Sinette Ashley, who lost her mother just a few, I guess it's probably 6 weeks ago, maybe about 6 weeks. And I know that was another real challenge, right? I mean, when those who reared us, those who cared for us, those who are probably the most critical to our development make their transition, it can be really, really challenging. And so I have to say to you, remember, death does not destroy us. No. Death does not destroy us. It simply means that her divine soul, that all of our parents who make their transition and those who we love that are close to us to make their transition, it simply means that their divine soul has shed its physical form. And these physical forms are not meant to be eternal.
Yes, exactly.
That's so hard to hear, because I know that when my father died, and I know that he was ailing, he was in so much torment for months upon months upon months. My sister and my mother called me the day before he made his transition, expressing how much pain he was in. And I had been with him just a few hours earlier, and I understood how much pain he was in. None of us knew that he was going to make his transition when he did. But in hindsight, perhaps we should have known that with all the things we were trying to do, that he was going to make his transition. It was very hard. It was
Yes.
very hard. And there are times now that I even still feel very melancholy that he's not with me. But I have recognized, and it seems that Sen Curtis is getting to this place even sooner than I have. But I'm going to say to you, I recognize now, I laugh more about my experiences with him than I feel saddened about the loss of his physical form. I think about him as much as I ever have, but I am more happy that I had all of those moments with him, that I had those tiny experiences with him, that I had large experiences and small experiences. And he would call and make his, my father was a master of dad jokes before we called them dad jokes. You know, I remember all of that. And I'm so blessed to have had him in my life for all of those years. I think we were just looking at the life expectancy of an African-American man. It is certainly, I think it's 73 or 72. My father was 82. So in that sense, we had him for a longer period. And I know his father died, I believe, when he was probably 40 or something to that effect. So this is one of those things that is always challenging. But as you listen to Sen Curtis, I know that he is prepared to do the hemnettering to his family that his tradition has prepared him to do. He does not have to have the title to do the work. It just simply means you're a divine servant. He is prepared to do that work in order to allow them to feel that the energy that your mother is now is still with us. So did you want to say something else? Is that what you were?
Yeah, yes.
Please go ahead, Sen Curtis.
Just simply that I don't mean to give the impression that I haven't had my waves of and sadness, because I have. But I will say that I've been able to continue to fulfill my roles and responsibilities. Husband, father, brother, supporter, uncle, and grandpa, and meet all of those other responsibilities that comes with, you know, transition and loss of a loved one. So I do have my moments. I didn't mean to give the impression that I've just been.
We didn't get that impression that you just dancing and listening to soul music. But I do know that you are so fully invested in the tradition that you have the 30,000 foot view of what is occurring. And so there is a mourning of the passing of someone's physical form. I mean, that means that we won't be able to have the same sort of relationship that we had with them, right? And that is challenging. It does not mean that the relationship has ended, but it does mean it has definitely changed. Yes. And it is very difficult for us to get used to that. I know that when something big happens in my life, my father makes a comment. He makes a comment, and I receive it, and I say, okay, I got it. So it is really important for us to recognize that they are not gone. Has their form changed? Yes. Will I be able to sit on the couch and eat popcorn while we watch great Black movies? It's something I did with my dad a lot. I won't be able to do that anymore, right? And I miss that, right? I really, truly miss that. The 2 days before he made his transition, he left me a message on my cell phone saying, as soon as I get better, I'm gonna take the train up to Harlem and we're gonna sit together and eat popcorn and watch movies. And then he was actually he was gone. His physical form expired less than 48 hours later. And you know, that's hard.
Yes.
That's hard. So, and I don't want anyone to think that if you are breaking, that there's something wrong with you. I want you to understand that sometimes you have to break in order to rebuild. And this now means that part of that rebuilding is rebuilding oneself and rebuilding the relationship that we have with our ancestor that has made their transition. You know, let's be clear. When you go to a funeral, almost anyone's funeral in any spiritual tradition, in any cultural or racial group, when you see that little program, it's going to say sunrise and sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be very clear. The sun does not set and then not rise again, right? So and that concept clearly came from the Kemetic tradition.
Yeah.
And so it's so important for us to recognize that it is the tradition that helps us make sense of what is occurring. And I really hope that you are there to do that. By the way, a bunch of you came in really quickly. I just want to say Ankh and Ma'at to you all. There's no way for me to go back and greet you all. I do see that Robert Bunag is talking about the passing of his father. I know that that's hard with it happening during COVID. My father died during COVID, not of COVID, but during the pandemic. And it meant that we could only have a few people at the funeral. And we were blessed because had he died 2 weeks earlier, there would have been no funeral. There would not have been a funeral. So all of this happens, and we want to show our myrrh for all of you who are going through all of it. And I also see that Jason said he spoke to Sinette Ashley yesterday and that she's doing fine. I just have to say we are giving her myrrh. I know that she's gone through some other transitions, moving around a little bit. And I just hope that I'll send her a text. I hope that my words reach her, that I'm thinking about her as well. So with that, can we just say a quick prayer for the divine and everlasting soul of our dear ancestor, a glorious, glorious being, Janice V. Irwin. We ask for the boat of Ra to have the most prominent place prepared on its bow for our dear, dear ancestor, Janice V. Irwin. We ask that the ancestors allow the boat to make its transition, that not a splash get towards the bow of the ship, that there is no turmoil on the waters, that she is surrounded by the ancestors and pushed forward on this journey by the Neteru. We ask that as she arrive to her space, that her weighing is miraculous. We ask that her ab is lighter than a feather, because we know that she lived while she may not have called the name Ma'at, used the word Ma'at, spoken the Kemetic tradition out of her mouth, from her lungs. We know that she lived a beautiful, balanced life. And that balanced life led to the creation of our dear Sen Curtis. We see her work through him. We know that while we may never have broken bread with her, we may never have sat to have a conversation, we know her because we know him. And we say dua for all of her work, all of her commitment, all of her struggle, all of her sacrifice while she was a physical form. And we know that all of the things that she did for her family will be magnified as she is now a glorious soul. She no longer needs to walk to be with them. She no longer needs to drive to be with them. She no longer needs to get on a plane. Oh, at this time, do we not want to get on a plane? She can be where she needs to be in a moment's notice, because she is no longer encumbered by a physical form. We ask for you, Neteru. We ask for you, ancestors, to make her journey straight and smooth. And we ask that her family has solace and is able to communicate with her as an everlasting ancestor. With that, we say, Tuan Tur, Twa Winter. Dua, Sen Curtis, for coming on. and just sharing with us. And I know that this is a challenging time. So for you to even spend time with the family on Kemetic Ascension is a blessing. We want to say dua to you. We want to say that we are with you. We're thinking about you in the tough times, and we're ready to laugh with you in the light moments. I've asked Sen Curtis to put, yes, I see you. I've asked that Sen Curtis put the information for the memorial service. If he sends it to me, I will do it, but definitely he can put it on our page so that if any of you are near, you can go and be there with him, or you can send something to the funeral home, the space where the ceremony is going. Just remember to have him in your thoughts this week as he is taking care of all of the arrangements and being with his family. St. Curtis, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Yes. In order to start the laughter off on a good note, I want to thank you, dwell to you, for properly butchering my Adamiam name every week.
It's Adamiam, huh?
Yeah. You're trying, and
I said Adamium or something, right? Adamium.
All kind of stuff, you
Woo!
know.
Every week I do. Every Kemetic Ascension, I say it a different way. I'm glad that, and you know what? I'm going to try to remember it. But next time when I butcher it, if I do, just send me a LOL and I'll remember, oh, I butchered it again. Adamium is what you said, right?
It is simply an acronym for another day, another miracle, I am.
Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Is that from you, or did you?
No, that was a divine inspiration for my LLC and the oils, incense, shea butters, and all kind of stuff that small business practice and holistic and aromatherapy of my small business. And so
And you have do you have a website?
No.
Okay. No. How do people reach you with your business?
Well, it's, you know what, it hasn't grown to that point. It was kind of something that I was more invested in a couple years ago, and I just kept the name. And it's a long story, but it's Adamiam. Just so
Adamiam. I love it. I love the name. And when you have us able to reach you, you should go ahead and put it on the listen. We have to support each other, right? Don't feel uncomfortable, family, if you're telling people about your business or your book or your event. We have to support each other, okay? Sometimes I know that I've said that to Shrine members when I hear that they're doing something that will help them gain profit, right? We are the only community that is uncomfortable with it. People will sometimes say, "Oh, I didn't think I could share that." What? Please do. Please let us know when you're having your financial endeavors, family, because we have to support each other so that we're able to continue to do the work. If you are not able to feed your family, it is really hard for you to do the work. So we have to support each other. So please, when you're prepared, let us know so we can put it up on the pages as well. Okay, that's for all of you. Okay, for all of you. By the way, I'm seeing now that I have been saying Bonetta Sutton, and it is Bonita Sutton. How many years have I been mispronouncing her name? What? And she's been so nice to me that she has never said, you know, you saying my name wrong for like 5 years. Y'all are so humble that you allow me, this bald-headed, bespectacled guy, to butcher your names. Please, and I will say to you, I will try to remember. But if I mess it up, please let me know. Okay, please let me know. That's a really long time, right? It's been a long time that I've been saying. You know what? There was a sister that actually used to work on our TV show Kemetic Legacy Today from many years ago, who was Bonita Sutton. So that's not Bonita Sutton. Bonita, her last name wasn't Sutton. It was something similar to Sutton because I thought you might have been her when I first saw you. You might remember that I asked, is that you? So I've been saying your name, which is spelled the same as hers, the way that she says her name. So it's Bonita Sutton, right? Not Bonetta, Bonita. Sutton. So definitely I'll try to remember. She's here all the time. She's here all the time. So definitely I want to try to get it right. For all of you, I want to try to get it right. And if I do get it wrong, you know what they say, chalk it up to my head and not my ob, right? Because I'm certainly trying to get it right. And it can be challenging. So with that, we should do the opening of the way. Sen Curtis?
Yes.
Do you feel comfortable doing the opening of the way for us?
Would be an honor.
Oh, wonderful. Dwa, dwa, dwa. You see how I'm asking him to do all kinds of stuff today? Please, family, stand. And you know that it is time to be in the position of adoration as we as we open our gathering the way that our elder has taught us to open our gathering. Stand in the position of adoration. That means that your left foot will be slightly further forward than your right foot, as if you are about to take a step and move forward. And then you're going to expose your palms in front of you. The left palm should be further forward than the right palm, and the right palm can also be a bit further down, lower than your left palm. Yes, you are. Come. Come. My mother entered the room and she got into the pose of adoration. He's clapping. Come. She doesn't want to be on camera. Anyway, I want you to stand in a position of adoration and remember that the left hand is the one that gives and the right hand is the one that receives. You must give in order to receive. This fundamental sacred circuit must be closed in order for your life to have the prosperity that you are expecting in it. So many of us think we're going to just get. And sometimes we even feel entitled to receive. The question that you must ask is, where is your investment in those around you? Where is your investment in your community? Where is your investment in order for you to reap the rewards? You must give in order to receive. This is the fundamental message of the pose of adoration. And so as we stand in the pose of adoration, we ask for our dear Sen Curtis, who I know is thinking of his mother, to please lead us in the opening of the way.
Can we all take our breath of life? Netrek and Behet.
A Netrak and Bedhet.
Nuke and Behet.
Nuke and Bedhet.
A Netrek Hapi.
A Netrak Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Twau Winter.
Twau Winter.
Down to the right. A Netrek Circuit.
A Netrak Circuit.
Nuke Circuit.
Nuke Circuit.
A Netrek Gepsanoof.
A Netrak Kebsanoof.
Nuke Kebsanoof.
Nuke Kebsanoof.
Twau Winter.
Twau Winter.
A Netrek Ost.
A Netrak Ost.
Nuke Ost.
Nuke Ost.
A Netrek Omset.
A Netrak Omset.
Nuke Omset.
Nuke Omset.
Twau Winter.
Twau Inter.
Down to the right. A Netrak Neat.
A Netrak Neat.
Nuke Neat.
Nuke Neat.
A Netrak Dwamutef.
A Netrak Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Twau Inter.
Twau Inter.
Down to the right. The Netrak Newt.
A Netrak Newt.
Nuke Newt.
Nuke Newt.
The Netrak Geb.
A Netrak Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Twau Inter.
Twau Inter.
Turn to the right.
Oh no, stay where you are. Yep.
Stay where you are. Netrak Shoe.
A Netrak Shoe.
Shoe. Shoe. Nukshu.
Nukshu.
Netrak Tefnut.
Anetrak Tefnut.
Tefnut.
Tefnut. Tefnut. Tefnut. Nuke Tefnut.
Twauinter.
Twauinter.
Netrak Paut Interu.
Anetrak Paut Interu.
Nuke Paut Interu.
Nuke Paut Interu.
Netrak Imbu Interu.
Netrak and Bu Interu.
Nuke Imbu Interu.
Nuke and Bu Interu. Twauinter.
Take your breath. Twauinter.
Twauinter. Dwa, dwa, dwa. Dwa, dwa, dwa for leading us. Can you see? I do not believe that I have seen Sen Curtis lead the group before. I'm sure he's led the group in other places that I have not been present, because I hear about Sen Curtis, just as I hear about so many of you. I hear about Senatan. I hear about Shen Ka. I hear about Sen Jason. They don't have to be talking to me. Other members tell me I was talking to them, and Sen Curtis is one of those members that I hear that. So listen, he learned this during initiation over 2 years ago. He's still doing it. Can you see that he is still doing this as part of his practice? Please, family, recognize that this ritual reminds us of just who we are, that we are unbreakable stuff, that we are eternal stuff, that all of those challenges that we have, we are larger than, that you are eternal, that the very cardinal points, north, south, east, west, is us. And so please do this ritual on a regular basis whenever you're about to do something important. And certainly each day is important. So dua once again to Sen Curtis, our dear Sen, for leading us, particularly in a challenging time for him. Please reach out to your brother and make sure that he is in good stead as he is assisting his family and dealing himself with the passage of the physical form of his mother, Janice V. Irwin. I'm saying her name because when you do your altar work, family, call on that new glorious ancestor. Let her know that you may not have known her in person, but you remember her through her son. And we will continue to do the work we must do. Dua again to Sen Curtis for leading us. I must say, I'm so pleased that you are here. Dua, 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 dua. We will see you soon.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Dua. Shema Ma'at. See you soon.
Shema Ma'at, I bet.
So I really have to say that I'm so pleased that he came and did the work for the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful grouping that is here, the shrine. And I'm so honored that he came in, even though clearly with dealing with the services, the preparation for the passage for the memorial for his mother, he clearly could have been in his own feelings, and rightfully so, but wanted to come and speak to the family even on a day like today. So I want to say dua once again for what he just did. It was so, I certainly feel honored that he did. So we are way, way over. It is 1:14, and I want to move relatively quickly. I hope that you all will not begrudge me if we do not do our Hesi today. I'm hoping that you will not begrudge me if we do not do our Hesi today. Or at least not in the formal form that we often do. I'm going to simply say to you that as we are dealing with resurrection, I want you to perhaps get into the Asar Hesi today on your own, thinking about this ancestor. And you know how it goes. Iau, 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 asa neferu. Di isa neteru. Asar, 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 I want you to get into your asar hesi today. Let's remember that for thousands of years, asar was the very image of resurrection. If you had told someone 2,000 years ago that you were dealing with the image of resurrection, that you were praying to that divine soul whose life was snuffed out, but came back into existence in order to allow each of us access to the afterlife. 2,000 years ago, they wouldn't have said, oh, I think you must be talking about Yeshua. Oh, I think you must be talking about Jesus. They would have said, I believe you are referring to Asar. Perhaps they would have said Osiris, because the Greeks were then actually taking those ideas into the rest of the world. But I want you to understand that 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, they would have been saying, you are speaking of Asar. And so please get into your Asar Hesi today and think about our dear elder ancestor. Okay. With that, I want to say a few things quickly, if I may, as we deal with the word from the Sebayit. I really have felt moved to talk about this topic today because we are now ensconced in what many people would call the Lenten period. And I know that as a child, I would have been thinking about this period. I would have been preparing for Easter. In fact, I'm going to tell you, my parents would have taken their meager resources and been preparing for me to have the best outfit for Easter possible. And that was not easy for a working class family in the 70s and 80s. My mother might have made the clothes herself for me to wear. She certainly, if she didn't make my clothes, she would have made my sister's clothes. That was not easy. That was not a thing that we can take for granted. It was important for them to understand that we would be recognizing that resurrection is of critical importance. And so we would have been preparing at this time. In fact, as I was raised Roman Catholic, I would have had the ash placed on my forehead on Wednesday. We are in that period where people are thinking about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And it's all around us as the United States and many of the different spaces that many of our shrine members and extended shrine family are in the West. It's all around us. It is inescapable. I want us to remember that this period and its underlying ideas are things that were brought into existence by you, dear Africans. That these ideas are fundamental African principles that were brought to the world in greatness, and then, I dare say, copied by others. And that what we're experiencing is an echo of an echo of an echo. Now, when I say that to people that are from the continent of Africa, the oldest people on the planet, they are the ones that argue with me about it. You want to hear something funny? When I speak to the Tomhu, When I speak to those people whose relatives most recently came from Europe and I tell them these things, they don't fight with me. They are curious. It is us that want to extinguish what us did. We are the ones that are most uncomfortable recognizing that we are the ones that brought this to the world. I want to talk to you a bit about this today. I'm not going to give you the full analysis as I've done in previous Kemetic ascensions. I'm going to actually dole it out a little bit as we are in this period. But I want to say to you, Easter comes from Kemet. I want to say to you that Lent comes from Kemet. I want to say to you that the concept of using ash in this manner comes from Kemet. I want to say to you that the importance of palm in spiritual ritual comes from Kemet. Every single bit of it. And as this week, many people in the world recognized Ash Wednesday, I do hope you recognize that the largest Christian denomination is Roman Catholic. Did you know that? Did you know that? And as some of my good friends were down in New Orleans having a good time for Mardi Gras, and that folks in Trinidad and many other places in the Caribbean and in South America were celebrating Carnival, all of that Kemetic. I'm going to show you the sources, at least some of them today. And during this period, I'm going to roll it out. And I'm hoping that I will have a larger historical lecture on this in this period. And so let's move. Look at this. I want to talk a little bit about Easter and its Kemetic origins, although I will save the larger analysis of Easter for Easter. Look at these beautiful sisters in their hats. I'm telling you, they look magnificent. You know that nobody does a hat as well as our sisters. No one. They are beautiful. In fact, the two that are standing there on the right are in front of Abyssinian Baptist Church, right in Harlem. Right in Harlem. We have been known to do it up on Easter. In fact, I should have included a picture. I'm sure it's in one of these books right here, since I'm in my childhood home, of me standing with these straight lapels and some bell bottoms with a little tiny afro. My parents had prepared me for Easter. I must have been 3, maybe 4. I think it was 3 because I believe we were still in Brooklyn. Man, my mom and my dad had me looking sharp that day with a little bow tie. We did Easter up. And maybe Easter is so important to us because we remember that resurrection is in our bones. Look at these sisters and then look at this picture. Come on now, where are you at? Look at this picture. Now, these sisters are also walking to Abyssinian Baptist Church. This, I believe, is in the 1940s. Now, listen, you might have thought that it's been the last 10, 20 years that sisters been putting on those hats and looking sharp. And brothers had, listen, I remember that my cousin was saying he was saving up to get him some gaiters for Easter. And it was everything he did. He would be raising money, and he said, I said, what you doing? He said, I got to get those gaiters. That's all he would say. Why? For Easter. So this has been important to us for a long time, a very long. Oh, Ankh and Ma'at to Hemet Netter Seshat. I owe you a phone call. You know that. Life has been a little complex. Please don't be upset that I have not called. Some of you who deserve calls, you will get them. Life has been a little complex. And I wanted to also say, while you're here, dua for reaching out to me to let me know that Sen Curtis's mother had passed. I was in class really late, and I looked at my phone. It must have been 12 o'clock at night or something like that, and noticed that that you had sent me the text. Dua for peeping me, because it is important for me to reach out to members who have had great loss. So dua once again to you for doing that. And Ankh and Ma'at to so many of you who have come in, and I have not greeted you, like Seba, Ori, Koku, Obelafia, who's one of our full members. Ankh and Ma'at to you, Ankh and Ma'at to Ron Green, and so many others. Let's continue. So as we are seeing these beautiful sisters prepared, can you see in the sign in the back it says, let's see what it says. It says, maybe you can see it more clearly here, Easter Sunday at 8:30. Reverend Ethelred Brown. That's one of the churches out of there. And by the way, can you see, this is in the 1940s, y'all. At the bottom of this sign, it says, "No more police brutality." Our community, and I must honestly say our churches, have continued to speak to the issues that our community has faced. 1940s in Harlem. You might have thought that this was new. It is not. Sit there. Sit there. No one's going to see you if you walk there. They can't see you. My mom is walking in the room, but she doesn't want to be on camera. That's fine. Okay, so mom is here. I want you to remember that in this period, we are also dealing with the fact that all of this Easter Lenten period is all around us. Sometimes people say to me, Brother Jabari, why are you talking about Easter and Lent when you're a Kemetic shrine? There are three big reasons. First of all, it's what so many of us who are of African descent in the United States, in the West, are talking about and thinking about right now. I don't want you to be so far removed from your family, from your friends, from your community, that you are not talking with them about these larger issues. But I want you to have the details, the sources, so that when you speak to them, you are able to help them understand the African context from the African continent. That's why I do it. And it's everywhere. Do you believe me? Do you know that every few years, the major networks fight over the 10 Commandments? Did you know that? The 10 Commandments is that movie from 1956 that featured Charlton Heston as Moses and Yul Brynner as Ramses the Great. I'm telling you, the costumes were amazing. The sets were absolutely flabbergasting, but the entire story is fictional. Some of you are saying, what? Did he say there was no Moses? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Are you saying that Ramses the Great is not the one that persecuted the Hebrews? That's precisely what I'm saying. But I want you to understand that this conversation is in the culture of the United States and the West. Look at this. You're going to see, this is actually 2020 announcement from 2023 saying that they were playing it. And I want you to understand that every year, the television event that actually has the largest viewership is always the Super Bowl. It's always. And in fact, this year's Super Bowl was better attended, better watched than most, as we saw two Black quarterbacks and Kendrick Lamar. It was a Black thing this year. So Black that some people watching it didn't even understand it. Like, what is happening? I don't know what's going on. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Ask a Black friend if you have one. That's what happened this year. But I want you to know that the other thing other than the Super Bowl is the viewing of the 10 Commandments. And I know that when my father was alive, it was on in this house. I would watch it. And as I got a little older, I would say, Dad, why are you watching this stuff? And he would say, what do you mean? Everyone watches it. That's what his response was. And you know what? As much as I disagree with him, he was right. It is everywhere.
My people go. Slaves are mine. Lives are mine. All that they own is mine.
That's what you see during this period. I wish I could play you a little bit more, but I'm afraid that Facebook and YouTube are going to bump us. So I played you less than 10 seconds. I hope that we're still on. But you know that this is everywhere. There's this concept that the Hebrew people built the pyramids and built Kemet. On the left, you are seeing one of those illustrated books that Jewish families read to Jewish children during Passover. Notice the Mirkutu, the pyramids in the background. Look at that person that's supposed to be a quote unquote in Egyptian. And they are whipping them. Do you see that? I know you see it. This is what they teach their children. And on the right, you might recognize the art. That is Family Guy. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Do you see the Merkut being built in the background next to the Heromakit, the Sphinx? This is everywhere. You can't escape it just because you think you're Kemetic. So don't ask me why I'm talking about it. I want you to have the context for what we are experiencing. That's why we're talking about it. Let's continue. In fact, if you don't believe that it's everywhere, this is Mount Sinai, Beth Israel, one of the most revered hospitals in all of New York City. It is on the Lower East Side. I guess I'm not even sure if that's lower. It's around 14th Street, but it's on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, right? In fact, one of my dearest brothers, an initiate of the Shrine of Ptah, had his first child. I believe both of his children were born here. When you go into the rooms at Mount Sinai, Beth Israel, don't you see these? What is that? I've asked this question in Kemetic Ascension again. The person that usually responds, there are usually two people that respond. It's usually Senatan or Sen Jason. What is this? If you are in a home, an institution that is owned by people who are Jewish, you will have seen it. It's usually on the doorway, and it's not completely vertical. It's usually at an angle. If you live in a building that is owned by Jewish people, it's in your own doorway. What is it? Love Mifro says, the light that never goes out. There's Sen Jason Holmes. He says a mezuzah. A mezuzah. What is a mezuzah? What is a mezuzah? By the way, it's also called a klaf. But mezuzah is the most common name. I want you to know that it is a little container that has several passages from the Torah. And you might say, well, why is that in your doorway? Because it is a commemoration of an event that they argue is a historical event. The event when the Hebrews, during Passover, were told that they should take the blood of the lamb and place it on their lintels and on their doorways. Why? So that the angel of death would not be visited on their homes. This is Passover. What do you mean Passover? So the angel of death will pass over their homes. And do what? Kill all of the firstborn of Kemet, the firstborn sheep, the firstborn donkeys, the firstborn oxes, the firstborn cats, the firstborn dogs, the firstborn baboons, and yes, the firstborn children. This event celebrates the murder of innocents. It even says the firstborn of the people who are in Pharaoh's prison. What? You mean I'm disagreeing with the Pharaoh and my child got to die too? What kind of deity uses murder in such indiscriminate fashion? Wouldn't it have been easier just to kill Pharaoh? You're going to kill the firstborn? I know that many of you are in this room may not agree with our current president. Are you telling me that a just punishment would be for your kids to die because he did something wrong? What? That's exactly what happens. It celebrates the murder of babies. And some people say, well, Brother Jabari, the firstborn doesn't have to be a baby. Sure, of course, the firstborn can be an adult depending on their age. But are you saying to me that we're not including babies in this calculation? Okay, so your pushback is, well, they weren't all babies. That's your pushback? Only some of them were babies. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought all of them were babies. No problem. Go about your business. That's what this story is. And when you see the mezuzah on the doorway, it is a memory of that. It is a commemoration of that. That is what Passover is. And that is initially what is occurring in this period. Why did this very, very painful and indiscriminate punishment get waged by the God of the Hebrews? Because they are saying that they were being forced in enslavement to build the pyramids and other structures. I'm going to tell you that you are looking right here. I'm not going to go into this in great detail today, but as you are looking right here, can you see that this is some sort of archaeological dig? Guess what it's a dig of? It's a dig of the village, one of the portions of the village of the workers. That's what it's called, the graves of the village of the workers. For one of the Merkuts in Kemet, one of the pyramids of Kemet, we are able to, for several of them actually, we're able to go directly to where the workers lived. And when they go to where the workers lived, what can they tell? They can tell what they were paid. Wait a minute, I thought you said they were enslaved. No, I didn't say that, but that's what you've been told. We know what they were paid. We know what they ate. We know how their children were kept. We know what kinds of dwellings they lived in. Guess what we absolutely know? We know that they were not enslaved. That's what we know. But ain't that what you've been told? Ain't that what Pastor just said on the pulpit this afternoon? I'm telling you that this is a mythological story. If we allow it to be mythological and not historical, maybe we can think of the deeper meaning of what a parable might mean. But that's not how you were taught it. I know that's not how I was taught it. I was told it as it was a historical event which occurred. In fact, if you were sitting there, you probably had enmity, anger, righteous anger for the quote-unquote Pharaoh for murdering these people who were enslaved. Can you imagine you sitting in the middle of a black church, the descendant of enslaved, being angry that an African ruler enslaved the people that you think are you, and you're blaming enslavement on someone, then the descendants of people that live right down the block who enslaved you and your family? What kind of madness and confusion is this? That's where we are, and that's where we must find ourselves out of. Okay, I want to tell you something. First off, listen to how the Bible describes this event. This is from Exodus 1, 6-13 of the King James Version, the KJV. It says, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. In other words, more that the quote-unquote Egyptians tortured them, the more children they had, is what they're saying here. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick, and in all manners of service in the field. All their service wherein they were made to serve was with vigor. They punished them with hard work. That's what the Exodus says. And I want you to understand the Exodus is part of the Torah. So it's not just Christians who read this, it's also people in the Hebrew tradition. The Jewish faith reads this too. That's what it says. By the way, it doesn't say pyramids, you should know. Remember all those images I showed you? But it does say they were forced to build treasure cities. And in all of these images, can you see the Merkut in the background here? Here. In all of these images, that is always what we are told. That's what we're told. But what do biblical historians know about this event now? What? I didn't say African historians. I didn't say African-centered historians. I didn't say Black historians. I said, what do biblical historians know about this event now? Listen to what Moore and Kelly in their 2011 book, Biblical History in Israel's Past, the changing study of the Bible and history. Listen to what Moore and Kelly say. They say most histories of ancient Israel no longer consider information about the Egyptian sojourn, the Exodus, and the wilderness wanderings recoverable or even relevant to Israel's emergence. Most important, the fact that no clear extra biblical evidence exists for any aspect of the Egyptian sojourn, the Exodus, or the wilderness wanderings exists. Did you hear what I said? Biblical scholars for at least the last 30, 40, 50 years are saying that this story is not historical. But we don't hear biblical scholars from the pulpit. We don't look at the stories, the understandings of biblical scholars on Family Guy, in movies. When I read the words of biblical scholars, I get death threats. And I often say to people, I'm not the one that wrote this. The biblical scholars are the ones that wrote this. And then the people who disagree with me will say, yeah, that's because they're in Israel. And I go, what? First of all, if that comment is true, does it make sense? Are you telling me that the Jewish people are the ones saying that this doesn't occur? And then I say, wait a minute, I can show you biblical scholars from Israel that know this. I could show you biblical scholars from the United States that write this. I could show you biblical scholars from all over Europe that write this. Listen to what The Guardian wrote. This is an article in The Guardian. It says, Great Pyramid tombs unearth proof workers were not slaves. Egypt's leading archaeologist says 4,000-year-old burial plots with skeletons expose myth that builders were slaves. Egypt displayed today newly discovered tombs more than 4,000 years old and said they belonged to people who worked on the Great Pyramid of Giza, supporting evidence that slaves did not build the ancient monuments. The modest 9-foot deep shafts held a dozen skeletons of pyramid builders perfectly dry by dry sand, along with jars of beer and bread for the afterlife. The mud brick tombs were uncovered last week near the Giza pyramids, stretching beyond a burial site first found in the 1990s and dating to the 4th dynasty. I want you to continue to understand as we read this, we now know that they were not enslaved. Listen to what Amihai Amzar, professor of the Institute of Archaeology at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, says. He says that the myth stemmed from an erroneous claim by a former Israeli prime minister, Menachem Begin, on a visit to Egypt in 1977 that Jews built the pyramids. No, he says, no Jews built the pyramids because Jews didn't exist at the pyramids when the pyramids were built. Do you hear this? Do you hear this? Dorothy Ressig, an editor for in Biblical Archaeology Review in Washington, D.C., says the idea probably arose from the Old Testament book of Exodus, which says, so the Egyptians enslaved the children of Israel with backbreaking labor. I read it to you. That's where the idea probably comes from. Dieter Wilding from Berlin's Egyptian Museum says, it is common knowledge in serious Egyptology that the pyramid builders were not slaves. The myths of slaves building pyramids is only stuff of tabloids in Hollywood. How dare you say it's just the tabloids in Hollywood? It's the stuff that's spoken from the pulpit. Let's be clear. Let's be clear about this. And I want you to also recognize that as we're looking at this, here are the people who came into Kemet, the Hyksos. This is an image of them, a drawing of them. Here's the original image from the 12th dynasty tomb of Khnum-Hotep II. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about them. I want you to know that as we look at this, you should see that these people were welcomed into Kemet. And then they took control a few short generations later. This is who they were. And it was later an indigenous family. Here is the father of that family. His name was Sekenere Tau II, who led a rebellion against the Hyksos. He was killed by the Hyksos. His eldest son then took control and continued the rebellion later. He was killed. And then his wife, the wife of the patriarch, led the army as she got onto a horse with an axe and fought the Hyksos until her youngest son was old enough. Here's the picture of this lady. What is her name? Someone tell me what her name is. I'm not going to tell you. Those of you who are doing this work should tell me who she is. I want you to know that all of this occurs, and she successfully leads the army until her son becomes old enough and is married to his wife, who is always depicted with the blackest possible skin. Her skin pitch black, ebony. Look at Sen Jason Holmes. Her name is Ahotep. That's right. That's her name. This is Queen Ahotep. This is the story. I'm not going to spend, and of course we know that her son is King Amos, and the next queen is Queen Amos Nefertari. That's right. There's those two that are into history. I'm going to say more about this as we go further in. But I want you to know that this week we experienced Ash Wednesday and Lent, right? And I say that this is all around us. Take a look at this commercial. This is from 1985. I think I remember this commercial. Take a look.
It's difficult, Mother. Patience, dear. How much longer? It's almost time. 4 o'clock. Now. A dozen Filet-O-Fish sandwiches, please.
Every Friday during Lent after 4 o'clock, McDonald's Filet-O-Fish sandwiches cost only 59 cents. That's every Friday till Easter after 4.
It's a penance to wait, Mother. Thank God it's Friday.
The great taste of McDonald's.
You have got to understand that this stuff is all around us. That's McDonald's. You're going to notice that they're going to be selling Filet-O-Fish at a discount right now. Because on Fridays, those people who are giving something up for Lent often give up meat, so they eat fish. By the way, when I came to my mother's house on Friday, I was in the car and I looked around and I said to my lady, who you'll meet at some point, I said to my lady, I said, what's going on? Why is there all these cars here? And we realized it was a seafood place. I'm telling you, this is in Harlem. Black people were everywhere waiting for fish that day. Must have been a line of 14, 15 cars at 3:30 in the afternoon. What's it going to look like at 5 p.m., at 6 p.m., at 7 p.m.? We are into this. We are into this. And as you look at this, you are seeing Black folks receive the ash for Ash Wednesday at the beginning of Lent. One of the most important Christian practices and holidays. Ash Wednesday was last Wednesday. I hope you know that. Did you know that Ash Wednesday and Lent is not Christian? Listen to what one of the early Christian fathers who lived in the 4th and 5th century of the Common Era, John Cassian, listen to what he says about Lent. He says, and this is in his book, The Sacred Writings of John Cassian, and it's translated by Jazzy B. Verlag from 2012. He says, it ought to be known that the observance of Lent did not exist as long as the primitive church retained its perfection unbroken. This early Christian father is saying, when we had it together, we were not celebrating Lent. What? I thought Lent was your thing. What? Look at the writings of John Cassian. I'm sure many of you are unfamiliar with his work, but he is one of the early Christian fathers. How about St. Athanasius, who was the Bishop of Alexandria in the 3rd century and the 4th century? Listen to what he says. He says, but I have further deemed it highly necessary and very urgent to make known your modesty, for I have written this to each one, that thou shouldest proclaim the fast of 40 days to thy brethren and persuade them to fast. To that end, while all the world is fasting, we who are in Egypt should not become the laughingstock as the only people who do not fast but take pleasure in those days. I want you to understand that the Bishop of Alexandria is saying, the Bishop of Alexandria is saying, what? He's saying everyone in the world is celebrating Lent. We should do it too. What? Everyone in the world is celebrating it? What is he saying? Here goes the article in the Ecclesiastical Observer from 1876. This is the most important newsletter that comes forward in Christendom during this period. They say, our state church, like its mother of Rome, is still busy with Lent superstitions derived from paganism. That festival of the 3rd or 4th century, now designated Easter, was widely different from the Easter of the Church of Rome, and was not known at that time by that name. It was called Pesach or Passover, and though not an apostolic institution, it was very early observed by numerous Christians in commemoration of the death and resurrection of the Savior. It was, however, not preceded by a Lent. The 40 days abstinent of Lent was borrowed from the worship of a Babylonian goddess, the Yazidis, the devil worshippers of Kurdistan still observe it. Humboldt shows that the pagan Mexicans observed a Lent of 40 days, beginning 3 days after the vernal equinox. What? Wait, are you saying that this is connected to the movements of the sun? Let's continue. This last sentence will blow your ever-loving mind. Listen to what he says. He says, beginning 3 days after the vernal equinox in honor of the sun. The Egyptian Lent of 40 days was in commemoration of Osiris. Wait a minute. He's saying to you that the celebration of Lent comes from Kemet. And that's why he called it earlier a superstition based, derived from paganism. This isn't an African-centered scholar making this claim. This is in the Ecclesiastical Observer of 1876. 11 years after you were freed from enslavement in this land, African. They're acknowledging that what they are doing is an imitation of an imitation of an imitation of you, African. What? Did you know this? Did you know this? I think this is of critical importance. And I want you to recognize as we come to a close, look at these celebrations that occur: Carnival and Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras, by the way, is the French word for Fat Tuesday. Why? Because before Ash Wednesday, in French places and including in New Orleans, what do? They eat lots of fat foods and have lots of alcohol, because the next day of Ash Wednesday begins Lent, and now they're going to give things away. Did you know that? And Carnival, with so many of our family and friends, so many of our family and friends in the Caribbean and in South America celebrate. In fact, I was just at a Carnival celebration on Friday at my niece's school. My niece's school is not Black, but they are trying their best to bring cultural events from the African diaspora to their school. And so I went to support them. But just last night, I had a conversation with them, explaining to them that while they recognize that Carnival is something that we did, we didn't recognize that it long predates Christianity, that it's the Africans that did it, and that they are imitating us. What am I talking about? All of this has its origin in the Opet festival in ancient Kemet, the temple festival, where the priest would take the statue of the deities in two of the most important temples, the temples now known as the Temple of Luxor and the Temple of Karnak, out of the Holy of Holies, place it on a sacred bark, and the priest in one direction would walk it to the other temple as if Asar or a moon and Mut, or Asar and As, were actually meeting each other from their sacred temples. And then in the other direction, they would float it back on the water. And there would be great ribaldry and celebration around it. People would dress in costumes and celebrate and throw things at the statue and ask questions at the statue. And then sometimes, what would they do? They would also afterwards have these huge festivals where they would drink a lot of alcohol. Is this not Mardi Gras? They are imitating you. That's what they're doing. Why, there's one image of a sister in her tomb, and above an image of her and another lady, she says, "This is my best friend," and she gives her name. And the lady is bent over a little bit, and there are 3 lines coming from her mouth, and her friend is holding her hair. What? You telling me they drank so much that sometimes they yelled Earl? Is that what you're telling me? This celebration was actually something that Africans did. It was a great celebration. And then later, after the Roman Catholic Church closed the temples of Kemet, one celebration in Rome remained. And the celebration was called Navigium Isidis. And in this celebration of Ost, who the Greeks then were calling, the Greeks and the Romans were then calling Isis, they would have this big festival. The priests and others were dressed in costumes. There was lots of ribaldry and, yes, also alcohol. They would go down to the waters and proclaim Ost, the queen of the waters, and then they would put on the water what they called carus navalis, or a naval wagon. Carus navalis, carus navalis, carus navalis, carnival. That's where the word comes from. And carus navalis means naval wagon. In other words, a highly decorated boat that they would put on the water. Today, they no longer do it on the water. Today, they have these large trucks festooned with flowers and other decorations, and people stand outside of them celebrating. And they call those large trucks floats. But wait, it's not on water. Not anymore. This is a remembrance of the Chorus Navalis from the Navigum Isidis, which is nothing more than an echo of the Opet festival that you did thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, long before there was a Hebrew or a Jew, long before there was a Christian, long before there was a Muslim. They are imitating you, and you, unfortunately, have forgotten your traditions. Why did you forget them? Because they intentionally attempted to erase your memory. Well, I am here to say, dear Kemetic, to you that we remember. Well, with that, I just want to say I am going to continue these conversations over the course of the next few weeks. We're going to talk more about the findings, the quotations. I want you to have the best sources to be able to tell this story. You're going to have this conversation with your family. Let me say to you, please don't beat them up. Don't beat up the people that love you and support you who just don't know. Don't beat them up. Try to educate them. Try to explain things to them. Show them sources. Try to talk to them. Some of it will eventually sink in. Why, when I was a young person in a Catholic church, if you had told me this, I would have taken off my shoes and run my little brown feet away from you as fast as possible. It sometimes takes time for this to sink in. Don't beat up your family, the people who love you and support you, but try to educate them. So, as we think about resurrection, which is what all of this is about, as we think about the divine soul of new ancestors, individuals like Janice V. Irwin, people who have made their transition. We're talking about the mother of Sen Curtis, the mother of Sinette Ashley, and so many others whose names I'm not mentioning right now. We must think about resurrection and how our tradition does it. I leave you with this quote from the Pertem Heru. These are the words of Asar. He says, "Here I come, that I may overflow mine adversaries upon the earth. Though my dead body be buried, let me come forth today and walk upon my own legs. Let me have the feet of the glorified. I am a soul, and my soul is divine. It is the eternal force. I am Kepra, the self-produced upon his mother's thigh." This is what we all should say. In fact, some of you are now hearing in English what I sometimes read at funerals in the Metu Neter. We must remember that we are the ones that brought this concept of resurrection to the world in excellence. That it is the great ancestral African that told us that death does not destroy us. Do the work, family. Get up in your altars and pray to those ancestors who sacrificed so much for you to be who you are. Remember that this period, while it may seem foreign and sometimes uncomfortable to those who are not practicing these Christian traditions, recognize that their origin are from you and take away the deeper meaning of these celebrations and share them with those of you, those people that you love. With that, the divine force in me greets the divine force in you. Shemin Ma'at, please go forth in peace and prosperity. Go forth as a shining being of light, dwelling in the Son of the Most High. Do the work that our ancestors expect that you must do. And I'm going to say the final affirmation that we often say, that we often read, but here is the writing for it in the Pertem Heru. Take a look at the writing, because some of you always say, where does that come from? Take a look. It comes from here. This affirmation is known in our community as the Amasu. So I say to you, Amasu and Panter, Sauksu emitra and Pa enter, Autu Aura Maketi Pahirura. We say, give yourself to the one most high. Keep yourself daily for the divine, and do it tomorrow just as you did it today. Shemin Ma'at family, go forth in divine peace and do the work that you must do. I look forward to see you soon, and I'm hoping that you are up in your altars and up in prayer so that you will be strong enough for that challenging period that is in front of us. Shemin Ma'at once again, family. See you soon.